So what do you know about keywords? I think you already study about keywords. What is keyword? What is keyword? So any language will have some set of keywords. What do you mean by keywords? Means you should not use those words because they have some predefined meaning. So you should not use keyword names for your identified names. Like you should not name keywords as variables or class name or method name. So keywords are reserved words. What are keywords? Keywords are reserved words. So here you can see all the keywords in Java. And these keywords are case sensitive and you have to use in lowercase only. So if you change case of this keyword, then it won't be considered as keyword by the Java compiler or Java interpreter. So here we have totally 50 keywords in this Java, and you should not use these keywords for your variable names or for objects or for classes, methods. Okay. Next, in Java, we need to follow some naming convention. So if I'm using package, I'm creating one package like in C header files ma. So we call package in Java. So if you are creating any package by yourself, then you have to write that name in lowercase only. So you have to write the name in lowercase. What do you mean by package? Package is nothing but just like header files in C. So it will have some predefined classes and you can able to use those classes or methods which are present in that particular package. So some of the examples for package are java.lang package, java.util package, and here they have given some other example which is user defined package. So here in Java you can able to use predefined packages or you can able to create your own package. Okay, this is first naming convention. For suppose if you are creating any class, so always class name should start with capital letter. So here if you observe in this example, you have two words in this class, customer account. So if you observe here, the first letter in each word is capitalized. So this type of naming is called camel case. That means the first letter in each word will be in the capitalized form. So you have to follow this rule very strictly. You have to follow this naming convention while writing Java program. Next, for any methods or variable, you have to follow camel case but with some exception, like the first word, first character should be small letter. Whereas in class, first word, first letter also capital. Whereas in methods, the first word, first letter should be in small letter. And from the second word onwards, the first letter will be in capital format. So while writing programs, you will get to accompany, you will accompany with this type of convention. Next, if you are writing any constants, if you have any constants in the program, then you have to write it in uppercase. You have to write it all the words in uppercase. Got it? if you have packages. What do you mean by package? Package is just like header files in C. So if you are creating your own package, all the letters in the name should be in small case or lower case. And if you are writing class name, the class name, each word first letter should be capital and rest of the letters in that word should be in lowercase. And coming to methods and variables, the first word should be in complete lowercase. No letter will be in capital form. So from second word onwards, the first character in the word should be in uppercase. In the same way, coming to constants, all the names should be in uppercase. So these are 4 naming conventions and you have to remember this. Got it? Any doubts in naming convention? Okay, ma, if you don't have any problem with naming convention, I will move on to the next. So, if you have statements, how to write as statements? Statements are blocks. So, it is same as your C program. Statements is a form of complete unit of execution. So you have multiple statements, either it is assignment statements or object creations or method invocation. Method invocation means just like function call. So in C you will perform function call. So in the same way in Java you will perform method invocation. Method invocation is nothing but function call. Okay, so if you have any of this, the statement should end with semicolon. So this rule is same as your C. No much difference. Got it? Always statements should end with semicolon. This is must. Next, if you have blocks, always if you open the curly brackets, that block should be end with again termination symbol. A block indicates a related code. For suppose it may be a function block or it may be a conditional block or it may be a loop block. Always you have to represent with curly brackets if you have multiple lines in that block. For suppose if you have single line, then no need of writing curly brackets. Got it? This is also same like C. Next. Now coming to the main topic, variables. What do you mean by variables? Why we have to create a variable? Anyone? Please respond. So what do you
So
mean
what
by
do you mean
variable?
by variable?
What is variable? So variable is nothing but a named memory location. So what variable indicates? Variable is a memory location. I mean, what type of data it is going to store in that memory location. How to declare any variable? How to declare any variable? What is the way you will use to declare the memory variable? I mean variable. Again, I am asking, what is the need of variable? You already studied it in C. What do you mean by variable? So variable is a named memory location. Variable is nothing but a named memory location. So here by using variable you can able to store data. What type of data you have to store? So with the help of data type you will specify what type of variable or what type of data you have to store in that particular memory location. So here in Java, we have three types of variables. The first variable is local variable. So what do you mean by local variable? All these three variables are differed by scope. So where we are going to use that particular variable. Okay, the first one is local variable. What do you mean by local variable? Any variable which is defined inside a block. For suppose if I have if condition, if I declare any variable inside this if condition like int a, then that variable will be alive in this particular if condition only. You can't able to use that a outside that particular block. That is local variable. Then next one is instance variable. So you are going to study about classes and objects. So in class, if you create any variable, so that variable can be accessed by all the methods that are present in class. So what do you mean by instant variables? Instant variables are non-static variables. That means those variables can be used by all the methods which are declared in that respective class. So again, when I am discussing about class, I will re-explain you about this variable. Then you will understand it very clearly. Next, we have other than local variable and instant variable, we have class variables. What is this class variable? Class variables are static attributes. So this class variable will be constant for all the objects. So whereas here instance variable is specific for the object and this class variables are general or static for all the objects for a single class. So while again talking about classes and objects, I will explain you what is instance variable and class variable clearly. But at this point of time, just know how many variables we have in Java and what are the purpose of that variable. Any doubts up to now? Okay, next moving. So how to declare a variable? Generally, we will declare a variable with data type space variable name. So here, while creating any variable, we need to follow naming convention. As I already told you earlier, what is the naming convention you have to use? the first word of all, I mean first letter in the all the words should be capital except for the first word. For suppose if I am creating like first name, so in the first name, first should be here. First, in the first name, first is the first word. So in this first word, again F is the first letter. So here F should be small. Next, in the first name, name is the second word. So if I am using this any second word in the variable name, that word first character should be capital. So N should be capital and the remaining letters should be in the lowercase. This is the naming convention you need to follow. For suppose if you have single word, no need to bother about it. All the letters should be in lowercase. Next, how to initialize a variable. So while declaring, you can, if you are giving any assignment value, that means equal to, if you give equal to and giving initial value, then this is called initialization. While declaring, if you are providing any value to the variable, then this value is called as initial value, and this way of declaring is called declaring with initialization. So if you want to create only one variable for that respective data type, you can use in this format like int I equal to 0. So you can use this in this format by closing semicolon, because declaration is also one statement. Always statement should end with semicolon. For suppose in this integer data type, in my program I have multiple variables, then you can go with second way by separating each variable with comma. So this is what you have already learned in your C programming. For suppose, while declaring, if you are not providing any initial value, then it is called uninitialized. Okay, it is called uninitialized variable. That's it. Any doubts till now? This is already what you learned in C. Nothing new I am telling. I am just revising the concepts which you already know. Any doubts up to now about variables? What are variables? Variables are nothing but named memory location. To store some value, you are just providing name to it. For suppose, myself, I am here. If you want to use me, or if you want to know about me, how you know about me? You have to know where I am living and what is my name. Without knowing my name, you can't able to talk to me, or you can't able to know who am I. So in the same way, if you are using some value, you have to know where that value is stored in the memory. So you can't able to remember the memory values. Generally, the memory will be in the numeric format, like some thousand, or if you have terabyte, then you will have lengthy address. You can't able to remember that address every time. So in order to, instead of remembering this address, what you can do? Instead of remembering this address, what you can do? You are just giving name to it. So what you are doing? You are just giving name to it so that you can easily access that particular memory location. Okay. సో నాకు మెమరీ లొకేషన్ వాల్యూ గుర్తుంచుకోవటం కష్టం కాబట్టి దానికి ఒక నేమింగ్ ఇస్తున్నాం. Along with that, we have to specify what type of data it is. For suppose in that memory location I am storing some integer. On integer I can able to perform only some set of operations. And if I am storing some character, on character I can do some set of operations. For suppose, can I perform multiplication operation on character? Can I perform multiplication operation on character or not? F6? Is there a F6?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I able to perform multiplication operation on character or not? For suppose division, I have A and B, character A and character B. Can I able to perform A by B? A and B are not variables. A is a character, that means A is a normal alphabet and B is another alphabet. Can I able to perform A by B or not? Say either yes or no. Can I able to do it or not?
No, ma'am.
No. Why? Because we can't apply those type of operations on character. So that is the reason why we will specify the data type. So if I specify the data type, then if I use that variable name, then that variable also specify what type of operations I can able to perform on that memory location. So what data types tells you what type of data I'm storing in the memory. Along with that, I can also specify what type of operations I can able to perform on that variable. So coming to data types, we have two types of data types. That means value type and reference type. Value type means just like your primitive data type, reference type means non-primitive. So here coming to primitive data types, we have integer, float, char, boolean. Okay, all those things are present in primitive data type. Coming to reference type, so here we will have user defined types like objects, interface, arrays, enums. So whatever user defined, that comes under reference type. Here you have to remember this much. Again, we have stack memory as well as heap memory. So while storing some value in the memory, so we have two types of memories. Not only in Java, in C or any programming language, we have two types of memories. The first one is static memory and the second one is heap memory. So what type of value stored in stack memory and what type of variable stored in heap memory? So in stack memory, all the variables that you have initialized in the block will be stored in stack memory, and method invocation in case of C, function calls, all these are stored in stack memory. What will be stored in heap memory? If you are creating anything dynamically, that means in C, if you create any variable by using malloc, calloc, okay, if you are redefining by using realloc, then those type of data will be stored in heap memory. So in Java, objects and whatever variables that are created using dynamic memory allocation, all such type of data will be stored in heap memory. Got it? In heap, you will have all dynamic data, whereas in stack, you will have the static data or local variables, all those type of data will be present in stack memory. So, remember this point. While executing any program, so your compiler or your machine will have two types of memory. Some data will be stored in stack memory and some type of data will be stored in heap memory. What type of data stored in stack memory? All variables, method calls, all those information will be stored in stack memory. Then what type of information will be stored in heap memory? If we have created anything dynamically by using dynamic memory allocation methods, then that type of information will be stored in heap memory. So we always create objects dynamically. So always objects will be stored in heap memory only. Remember? Uh, do remember this point. Okay? Any doubts up to now? Just please respond. Okay. Next. So how many data types we have? We have two types. The first, two categories. The first category is primitive data type and the second category is non-primitive data type. So again in primitive data type, just like in your C, we have numerical, character and Boolean type. So what is character data type? It was going to store all alphabets. What is Boolean type? It was going to hold either true or false. Now coming to numerical data type, here we have 6 subtypes. What are they? The first one is byte type, short, int, long, float and double. So the data types here what you are seeing, these are same as your C. Okay. Next, in non-primitive data types, we have objects, arrays. You can also list enums, unions, structures, trees, graphs, whatever. You can list all of them. Whatever data types that are created by user, those are considered as non-primitive data types. What do you mean by non-primitive data types? Those are not predefined by the compiler or by the language. You can able to create your own type, and for those types you can give your own properties and your own functionalities. Now coming to primitive data types, we have how many? Totally we have 8 primitive data types. Again, among those 8, they are categorized into 3 ways. So all the 8 primitive data types comes under any of these 3 categories. The first category is numerical values and the second category is characters and the third one is Boolean type. So what do you mean by Boolean type? You can able to store either true or false. You can able to specify either it is true or false. Again, in numerical values, you have integer type as well as floating type. What do you mean by integer? Any number which does not having decimal values, that means which does not having fractional values, you can consider that number as a integer. Next, what is floating point? Floating point means a number which having fractional part. That means 1 point something something. If you have any values in the fractional part, then those type of numbers is called as floating point numbers. Again, in floating point numbers, we have two types of data. We have two data types. The first one is float data type and the second one is double. Now coming to ranges and what are the default values. So byte in integer data type. Coming to numerical values, again in numerical values, we are talking about integers. In integers, we have four data types. What are those? First one is byte, short, int, and long. Coming to byte. Byte data type occupies 1 byte of memory. What is 1 byte? Equivalent is 8 bits. 1 byte is equal to 8 bits. So range is from minus 2 power 7 to 2 power 7 minus 1. So this range is same as your, whatever you studied in C, the range will be same. That is for all signed integers. The range will be from minus 2 power n minus 1 to 2 power n minus 1 minus 1. The same thing here we have applied. Here n value is 8 bits. So minus 2 power 8 minus 1 to 2 power 8 minus 1 minus 1. 8 minus 1 means 7 to 2 power 7 minus 1. That is the range for any integer data type. So you have to input the bit value here. Then you will get what is the range of the values you can able to store in that data type. So if you call or if you declared any variable as byte type, so from which value to which value you can able to store? I can able to store value minus 128 to 127. That means totally you have 256 possible values. If you want to store other than these values, ante ee limit kanna meeru greater or least value store cheyalanunte, then in that variable you can able to see some garbage value other than what value you want to see. You can't able to store exact value. So if the value is within this particular range, that means minus 128 to 127, then the value will be stored as it is. If you go out of range, then the garbage value will be stored in that particular variable. By default, the value will be 0. If you declare any variable of type byte, the default value will be 0. In the same way, short data type occupies 2 bytes of memory location. What do you mean by 2 bytes in terms of bits? 2 into 8. Byte means 8 bits. So 2 into 8 bits. Totally I have 16 bits. Then what is the range? Minus 2 power 16 minus 1. That means 16 minus 1 means 15. minus 2 power 15 to 2 power 15 minus 1. So here also, if you declare any variable as short, the default value will be 0. Remember this. But in C, the default value is garbage value. But whereas in Java, the default value will be 0. And here, int occupies 4 bytes of memory location. What is 4 bytes? 4 into 8 bits. So totally I have 32 bits and the range will be minus 2 power 31 to 2 power 31 minus 1. What is the easy way of remembering this range? Simply remember this formula. That is minus 2 power n minus 1 to 2 power n minus 1 minus 1. Then long data type. This long data type occupies 8 bytes of memory location. What is 8 bytes? 8 into 8 bits. What is 8 into 8? 8 into 8 is 64 bits. So that means you can store the numbers from minus 93. So here you can able to see a long number. So you can able to store a number value between this range. Got it? Depends on the value you are going to store in the variable. You have to define the data type. For all these data types, all these comes under integer data type. So all operators or operations which can be performed on integer can be applied on all these data types. Now, next moving on to the next type. What is the next type we have? Next type we have is floating point. Now, any doubts? Okay. Next, floating point data type. Again, in floating point data type, we have two types of. Again, we have two types. The first one is float, and the second one is double. Okay. Next, for float, the size is 32 bits, and for double, the size is 64 bits. For float, the size is 32 bits, and for double, the size is 64 bits. And for float and double, we don't have any range. You can able to store of any range type. For suppose if you have a very big fractional number, then go with double. It can able to store a long precision, whereas your float can able to hold only 6 bits of precision. What do you mean by 6 bits of precision? After decimal, the float going to store only 6 numbers. If you want to remember more than those 6 bits, then go with double. So by default, if you are creating any floating point number, that means if you are using any constants while doing some summation or multiplication like this, if you are using any constants in your program, this number will be a double type. This is the double is the default type in Java. Okay. If you are using any decimal value constants in your program, those values will be considered as double type. And here we don't have any precision values. Whereas in float, we will have some fixed precision, that means 6 bits. I mean not 6 bits, 6 values. Any doubts up to now? Ma, anyone have any doubts? Next, we have character data type. What is the purpose of character data type? Character data type going to store character values like alphabets, special symbols, digits. If you have any single bit value, then I mean single bit value means single value which you want to store it as character, then you can define that variable as char data type. So the data, I mean how many bytes this character data type takes means it will occupy 2 bytes. So totally we have 16 bits. Totally we have 16 bits. 2 bytes means 2 into 8. 16 bits. So the minimum value is 4 zeros to 4f's. So you can able to store one single character in this character data type. It can be either a character or digit or any other special symbols which are enclosed in quotes, which should be enclosed in single quotes. Then only the compiler will consider it as character. Next, moving on to Boolean data type. Boolean data type occupies 1 byte of memory location, that means 8 bits. So this Boolean data type will tells you only two informations, that is either true or false, whether it is true or false. So if you have any flags you are using, that means if you have any logical information, then you can use Boolean data type. Now tell me how many data types we have in C? No, in Java?
Two.
How many data types we have in Java? Main categories are
Two.
two. What are those? Primitive and
Non.
non-primitive. Again coming to primitive. How many categories we have?
Two categories.
Three categories: numeric,
Character.
character and Boolean type. Again coming to numeric, how many types we have? Again coming to numeric, we have two types. What are those? Integer and float. What is integer value? I mean what are the things or data types comes under integer? We have byte, short,
Int
next
long.
int and long. So based on the range of value, what type of value you are storing, you have to define that variable with that appropriate data type. Now I'm stopping at this point. Do you have any doubts now? So
No, ma'am.
just wait for attendance. Please don't leave. Ma'am, what is the first C7? Is there C7? Okay, C8,
Present, ma'am.
C9,
Fair, ma'am.
D0,
Present, ma'am.
D1,
Present, ma'am.
D1,
Present, ma'am.
D2,
Yes, ma'am.
D3,
Present, madam.
4,
Present, ma'am.
5, D6.
D5 present, ma'am.
Okay. D6.
Yes, ma'am.
7. D7. D8. Ma, whoever answer, you can leave. D8. Okay. D9. D9. E0. E1. E2. Is there E2? E2 absent. E3. E3. E3 absent. E4. Is there E4? E4. E5.
Present, ma'am.
E6.
Present, ma'am.
E7. E7. E8.
Present, ma'am.
E9. F0.
Present, ma'am. F not.
F1.
Right.
F2. F3. F4. F5.
Present, ma'am.
F6. F6 absent. F7.
Present, ma'am.